Hello and welcome to Baiju's Exam Prep IAS. Let's begin today's daily quiz with question number 1 on your screen. Consider the following statements with regards to the Pradhan Mantri Shram Yogi Man Dhan Yojana. Number 1. The scheme covers unorganized workers whose monthly income is rupees 15,000 per month or less. Second, the subscriber should belong to the entry age group of 18 to 40 years. Third, they should not be covered under the new pension scheme, Employees State Insurance Corporation scheme, or Employees Provident Fund organization. And fourth, he or she should be an income tax payer. You have to choose the correct statements out of these four. The correct answer here is A. 1, 2 and 3 are correct while the fourth statement is wrong. Because as per the eligibility criteria of the scheme, the person should not be an income tax payer. Now, as you know, this scheme specifically is a pension scheme for the people working in the unorganized sector. As per this scheme, once you attain the age of 60 years, you will be eligible to get a monthly pension of rupees 3,000. The reason why we are discussing this question is because the eShram portal, which has the database of the unorganized sector workers in India, has reached 25 crore registrations as per the Union Minister for Labour and Employment. Also, this is in the news because government has just launched a Donate a Pension initiative under this particular scheme, in which the citizens have an option to donate a premium contribution of their immediate support staff, such as the domestic workers working at their place, their drivers, helpers, etc. Under the scheme, the minimum donation amount is rupees 660, while the maximum donation amount is rupees 2,400 per year, which depends on the age of the beneficiary. The article tells us that the scheme provides a monthly assured pension of rupees 3,000 to unorganized workers and has a premium in the range of rupees 55 to rupees 200 per month. Next, question number 2. Consider the following statements with regards to equalization levy. Number 1. It is aimed at taxing foreign companies which have a significant local client base in India but are billing them through their offshore units, effectively escaping the country's tax system. Second, for equalization levy to be imposed, the annual payment which is made to a service provider should be more than rupees 10 lakh in a financial year. Third, the amendments to the Finance Act 2020 had expanded the ambit of equalization levy for non-resident e-commerce operators involved in supply of services, including online sale of goods and provision of services, with the levy at the rate of 2% effective 1st of April 2020. Which of these statements is or are correct? The correct answer here is C. 1 and 3 are correct. The second statement is wrong because equalization levy is imposed if a service provider is getting a payment of rupees 1 lakh or more in a financial year. In simple terms, this is a tax that is put majorly on e-commerce websites such as Amazon and Google. For example, when someone advertises on Google in India, Google charges them through their US company. The problem with this is that the Indian tax authorities then cannot claim a tax on Google because Google says that we are charging them through our US based company, so we will pay a tax to the US government. And that is where the concept of equalization levy has come into the picture. Obviously, the e-commerce companies don't like it, and that is why government has been putting its foot down and charging these taxes from the companies. The finance minister made a statement that the 2% equalization levy is a sovereign right of India and no company can refuse to pay this to the government. The finance minister also said that India is not an exception and many countries across the world have put such kind of taxes on companies such as Netflix, Facebook, Google, etc. Next, question number 3. Consider the following statements with regards to the Rajya Sabha elections. Number 1. The elections take place through proportional representation with single transferable vote methodology. Second, out of the 8 union territories, only Delhi, Puducherry and Jammu and Kashmir have a representation in the Rajya Sabha. Third, all states have at least some representation in the Rajya Sabha. Which of these given statements is or are correct? The correct answer here is D. All the 3 given statements are correct. The method used for Rajya Sabha elections is the same method that is used for election of the President, Vice President and the State Legislative Council, which is proportional representation with single transferable vote. Out of all the union territories that we have, only 3 have a representation in Rajya Sabha because only 3 have been given the provision of a legislative assembly. And third also is correct. all the states have at least one seat in the Rajya Sabha. Even the states with extremely low population such as Sikkim, Goa, they also have at least one seat in the Rajya Sabha. The reason why we are discussing this question is because 13 Rajya Sabha MPs are retiring and the elections to fill in the vacant seats will be held on 31st of March. Next, question number 4. A situation of slow economic growth and relatively high unemployment is best defined as stagflation, inflation, deflation, or galloping inflation. The correct answer here is A, stagflation. Now, inflation means a steady increase in the price of goods and commodities. Deflation is thus the opposite of that. So, deflation and inflation are opposite to each other. Galloping inflation means very, very high inflation. Usually, inflation at a rate of more than 10% is considered as galloping inflation. And it can go in higher double digits, 30, 40, 50%, and in some very, very sad cases, even in triple digits. The reason why we are discussing this question is because the news media is filled up with the articles of oil spike in the international market and the resulting inflation and stagflation that we'll see in India soon after the election results are announced. Next, we have a previous year question from 2020. With reference to the book Desher Katha written by Sakharam Ganesh Duskar during the freedom struggle, consider the following statements. Number 1. It warned against the colonial state's hypnotic conquest of the mind. Second, it inspired the performance of Swadeshi street plays and folk songs. Third, the use of Desh by Duiskar was in the specific context of the region of Bengal. Which of these given statements is or are correct? The correct answer here is D, since all the three given statements are correct. This was a famous book of the time of the freedom struggle and gave the concept of Swaraj, which was later on used by many freedom fighters, including Aurobindo Ghosh. In fact, the writer of the book, Mr. Sakharam Ganesh Duskar, was a contemporary and a close associate of Sri Aurobindo, and thus was inspired by his ideas and thinking. The book mainly summarized the work done by M.G. Ranade and Dadabhai Nairoji, and in the concluding chapter, warned against the colonial state's hypnotic conquest of the mind. The book explains the story of foreign exploitation, which has led to India's economic servitude. Next, we have a fact of the day, and today we will be discussing about the legacy of Savitribai and Shri Jyotirao Phule. Now, the reason why this respected couple is in the news is because last month, during the inauguration of Savitribai's statue at Savitri Phule Pune University, Maharashtra's governor made a controversial statement. He said that Savitribai was married off at the age of 10 and her husband was 13 years old at that time. Now think what the girls and boys would be thinking after getting married at this age. Now this shows a lack of knowledge and understanding about the work that these stalwarts did in India's history. It also gives us a chance to revisit their work and how it impacted the lives of women in India across the states. Jyotirao Phule and Savitribai Phule were best known for their work in the field of women's education, women's rights, and gender-based discrimination. Soon after marriage, Jyotirao started to educate his wife and trained her to become a teacher. In 1848, they started a school specifically for girls, Shudras and Ati Shudras in Pune. Just 5 years later, in 1853, they even opened up a care center for pregnant women and the Bal Hatya Pratibandhak Grah specifically to prevent infanticides. However, his biggest achievement, which is known even today, is that in 1873, Jyotirao Phule established the Satya Shodhak Samaj, which worked extensively for bringing a social change against the prevalent traditions and helped people in having less expensive weddings, intercaste marriage, eradication of child marriage, etc. Although the couple did not have their own child, they did adopt a child of a widow who went on to become a doctor and did great work during the 1897 bubonic plague. It is said that Jyotirao Phule inspired Dr. B.R. Ambedkar majorly. In fact, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar acknowledged Phule as one of his 3 gurus. As for Savitribai Phule, her birthday, that is the 3rd of Jan, is celebrated as the Balika Din or the Girl Child Day in the state of Maharashtra, especially in the girls' schools. In 2015, the University of Pune was renamed as Savitribai Phule Pune University in her honor. This is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching.